You can shortly introduce yourselves while you set the question.
My name is Patrick Okori. I am Executive Secretary of RUFORUM. I've been listening throughout the meeting, and something that maybe I missed it completely. But the world is experiencing, or at least walking through, the fourth industrial revolution. And the digital sphere is playing a big role in shrinking access to knowledge, financial services, and many other things. So did I just miss it in how that could relate? And you know, the digital sphere has a big role to play in the things I have talked about, which are very connected to value chains. Did I just miss something? Don't we have the metrics? Maybe I just missed it completely. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Digitalization, some of you. Okay,
Thank you. My name is Ishmael Sunga. I'm working for the Southern African Confederation of Agricultural Unions. I think in terms of agroecology, and the same applies to many subjects, we probably need to be very careful about the language that we use when we are communicating to farmers and to young farmers in particular. I think what we need to sell is an opportunity and not sell a label. It could be agroecology, it could be agriculture. I think we need to focus more on what opportunities are there for meaningful livelihoods, whatever it is called. The moment you put a label that you're selling agroecology, it is going to be misinterpreted to a large extent. That's according to our experience. So the question is, what opportunities do we see for meaningful transformative change that agroecology offers? And that's what we should latch on and market it to, particularly the young generation of farmers. Of course, also laced with digital technology, entrepreneurship, and the rest of it. I think we missed that communication. And we were driven much more by our passion to assist and our belief in agroecology. But is that the same belief in the eyes of those that you're trying to convince? I guess not. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Isolina.
Thank you very much. Isolina. I was former CTA and COLE-ECP, and we changed name to COLEAD now. I wanted just on agroecology, I think it was briefly mentioned this morning, but very briefly, what we don't hear enough, and certainly we have to do so more, is on the market side and the demand and the consumer side, and how to promote that. I mean, we still remain a lot on the production. And then also from the presentation and Richard and a few others, there is a whole part. We know that certification, be organic or fair trade, or or geographical information, GIs, and is a certification. It doesn't mean that necessarily leads to more equity, inclusiveness, etc. And there are other paths that lead to that, but are not recognized. There is no way that we kind of stamp it is recognized from a consumers or, a market perspective. And this is an area where I think a lot has to be done, that we don't remain as on the conventional agriculture on the productivity side and more production without looking at the markets. And probably we need some support or, some incentives, but I think it's a whole area there where we would have to discuss more and more. Thank you very much for the interesting exchanges though.
Thank you. And if I may summarize, I captured digitalization, communication to farmers, opportunities for transformative change, how to pass the message to them, and the market demand, how to promote. Who feels that wants to start?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think my response to just to put everything in context is based on what I would call operational change. if we talk, when I talk about operational change, it's all across the value chain. The first point of contact in terms of operational change is the farm. Whether it is small scale, whether it is large scale, we have to look at what are the activities. For example, poor farmers don't operate monoculture when they have tractorization and use of a lot of equipment in planting. Simple crop rotation. What is it that we can do to transform that process to something that is, they know, they live with it, and they can think around it and change to in the next level. This is the transformation we are talking about. And it's related to the agroecology difficulties we are talking about, because the way they produce, the way they plow, or the way they cultivate their land, setting bush fire and stuff like that, these are part of the problem. So we need to look at every part of the value chain, specifically from the production point of view, from the small scale, and look at what technology, what innovations, what kind of education, what kind of training can be provided to provide this transition. That is my reaction to that aspect of it.
Thank you. Christophe?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe the point on using some specific word that may okay, that's clear that this part of the discussion, and I hope that I hope that, of course, the narrative will evolve later on. But I think why it is important still to talk about agroecological principles or approaches and principles, it's the clarity that they bring, and we know, because when we start to mix everything, then we don't know exactly what we are talking about as well. So I hear what you say, that in certain context, certain interpretation, certain words are being understood in different ways, and that's a challenge. That's quite clear. So it has to be used with care. I can agree. But it also helps to clarify and to contextualize what we are talking about. So it's a bit of a challenge there, but okay, in this kind of dialogue, where it is also an encouragement to help let's say the more dominant vision to also evolve itself, because the end of this kind of dialogue between agroecological vision and conventional agriculture is also to help everybody to converge to something that is that is more diversified, and so on and so forth. And that's why it can also, I think, be connected to the medium scale and larger scale farms. We know that the agroecological movement comes from more scale, small scale farming, which is our priority still in terms of impact cooperation. But of course, it has also to generate some changes in larger ones, and they can work in their ways around these principles, with some nuances, but they can. Yeah, and clearly the digital dimension has to be part of this agenda. That's obvious. There is nothing. If we didn't have the digital agenda, we wouldn't have Annick explaining us how they have been made good use of this VCA4D analysis. So okay, we have to be, of course, open and make the best use of that. But again, it's what kind of digital agenda do we want to support, to contribute to the objectives that we have. It's not, and at times, we have the feeling that we are talking of digital, but we don't know exactly for what. So for what? And then we have the tools, and digital is certainly a tool that can indeed help to access to new knowledge, to access to farmers' practices as well, and that's so that they can exchange amongst themselves on what suits them better. So, and the youth dimension, I think it's key. Discussed already with the Sunga a bit earlier. So, but it's decisive, clearly, to be able to mobilize youth on these aspects. That's clear. And it's not to make them dream of anything, but simply to show that by looking at the farming system, the production side, but it's not limited to that. The agroecological dimension is often limited to the production and the environmental dimension. I think we have to resist to that. Clearly, the vision is about these three dimensions that we have been talking about with the value chain analysis. But yeah, the youth needs to understand that there are some opportunities for them to develop new sub-value chains in rural areas. That's quite obvious, and more localized, etc. Yeah, I stop. Thank you.